Greetings. I want to offer a warm welcome to the 2018 graduates of the School for Environment and Sustainability and the program in the environment. I also want to welcome all your friends, family, and faculty colleagues. Congratulations to everybody. I'm Jonathan Overpeck. I'm the Samuel A. Graham Dean of the School for Environment and Sustainability at the University of Michigan, which I just learned at the Big House earlier this morning while freezing, is the #1 public research university in the world. This is my very first graduation at the University of Michigan, and I'm very proud of our guests of honor, the graduates. But of course, we wouldn't all be here if it was just up to ourselves, and I just think we have to really take some time out to thank our families and friends who have helped us get here. And without your support, graduates would not have reached this milestone. I want to take a moment and to celebrate everyone in the room. So please, graduates, stand up, turn around. Thank your families, thank your friends, thank everybody that's helped you and your colleagues. Woohoo. This is my third event in the last 2 days, and I've been looking for the russet color, and it's so great to see all the russet, because that is our school's color, it turns out. Russet. I was sitting next to, I can't remember who, I think it was the business school associate dean, and we were looking at her color, and it was drab. And I was like, wow, that's kind of sad. So russet is the color of the earth, and we represent, trying to make sure we save the earth in addition to a lot of other things, right? So. All right, well, it's been my pleasure and honor to work with you all for this last year, and certainly my colleagues even longer than that. You were admitted into this program here at Michigan because we believed in you then, and we believe in you now more than ever. You have the academic skills, the life experiences, and promise to shape the future of the planet, creating a more sustainable and a more just world. You have my full faith that you are capable of going forth and being real game changers from here on. You have shown ingenuity, passion, insight, and at times you've just had to show grit. You've made it through all of this. You inspired those of us who have worked for you and worked with you, and you can continue to count on us to support you long after you've left the Dana Building in the University of Michigan. We're proud of you already and look forward to seeing all you will accomplish as alumni. You make all of us in this room, but particularly our faculty, hopeful and optimistic for the future. Well done, graduates, and congratulations again on reaching this incredible milestone of your graduation. All right, well, I'm now pleased to introduce our undergraduate student speaker, Rachel Beglin. And I'm wondering, here she comes. She's graduating today with a Bachelor of Science degree in the program of the environment. And she came to Michigan from Arizona, just as I did, which makes it even more special. After graduation, she'll be going to Panama. Sorry. We didn't really choreograph this really well. After graduation, Rachel will be going to Panama for 2 years in the Peace Corps, and where she'll be working in the agricultural sector. And after that, she hopes to go to law school. Lots of plans, and that's fantastic. At Michigan, Rachel's been an outspoken advocate for sustainability and for human rights. She was a Graham Scholar, and while here, she produced a moving documentary on Line 5, the oil and gas pipeline that runs under the Straits of Mackinac, which many of us know has been damaged and could cause a major oil spill in the Great Lakes. So we all hope that this line will be retired soon. And I really appreciate what you've done to draw attention to that. With all that Rachel has achieved so far, her future is bright. So please join us in welcoming her as our undergrad student speaker. Rachel.
This year, one of my friends made guitars out of wasted plastic. Some of my friends interviewed residents and visitors in Mackinac City about Enbridge's Line 5 for our documentary. Another organized our campus's first week-long celebration of veganism. And those are just the first few examples that crossed my mind. I'd say that they're only the tip of the iceberg, but it's a touchy subject around these parts. The point is, I've met some very, very cool people here. And some of that I might attribute to what we call the Michigan difference. The little something extra that happens when you see the block M and the maize in blue, and you push yourself a little further, go a little harder. But it's something more than just the Michigan difference. There is something really undeniably special when you become a part of the community that is Pite. Don't get me wrong, I really hate telling people that I'm a Pite major because it takes a little more explaining than just English or biology. But I always tell people that I'm a Pite major instead of saying environmental science or studies because you really can't describe this experience without calling it program in the environment. Pite lets you do it all. It is the ultimate liberal arts environmental education, incorporating the culture of the environment, the literature, the stories and history, the qualitative, the psychological, the change-making, the justice and the equity, as well as the science, the ecology, the biology, the research and the systems, the statistics and the data, the GIS and the labs and the cells and the specimens. Pite is not about competition. It is about cooperation. I think we realize somewhere deep down that it's going to take all of those areas of knowledge and all of us to do something about these trying environmental times. I'm like, go! You go figure out how to incorporate natural healing into the children's hospital, and you go figure out how to change the way farmers perceive apex predators, and you get more people to recycle, and you start that community garden. When one of us succeeds, makes even the tiniest dent in this multidimensional, intersectional, interdisciplinary environmental crisis of ours, we all win. We have stood together, steadfast against an administration that wants to defund us and deny climate change. We have stood together and organized as the water in this beautiful state has come under siege, from Detroit to Flint to Lake Michigan to our very own Huron River. We have marched for science, we have marched for Black lives, and we will continue to march for our own survival. We have been allies and instigators, inventors and researchers, and most importantly, we have worked together to restore a greater harmony between human beings and their environments, both the built and the natural, and have worked hard to break down those categories entirely. When I would call my mom after class, she'd always ask me, "Rachel, why are you taking all of these depressing classes?" And don't get me wrong, there are definitely some sad days for environmental students. As we enter what some call the 6th mass extinction on Earth and the oceans fill with plastic and lead is found in deadly concentrations in our drinking water, it would be easy to become hopeless. You might think Pite majors and SEAS students alike sit around and booze and lament the end of life as we know it. And we've all done that once or twice. And yet, when you enter the Dana building, the hub of environmental academics on campus, it is anything but hopeless. The tables of the Ford Commons are full of collaboration, and they will be, even after we are gone. Someone is having a meeting about expanding the campus farm. Someone is sharing their food in the kitchen. There is flannel, and there are mason jars full of coffee. And there is always, always a friendly face to run into. It is the professors and the students in this department who have continued to encourage and support me on this environmental journey, who have given me the hope that this field so perpetually requires, who have shown me the healing and internal restoration that can take place in a community dinner, in office hours, in meditation, and yes, literal tree hugging. PITE reopens the idea of what is normal, what is shared, what is community. So whether you studied policy or conservation, mushrooms or urbanism, social justice or energy, you have a place in this wonderful global movement for a more just, more sustainable distribution of resources and a brighter, cleaner, healthier future. We have so much to look forward to and so much of Earth yet to explore. Maintain that hope and remember that the Earth, it's going to be fine. It is the people sitting next to you, the people we are connected to all over the globe. It is them that we are fighting for and, more importantly, with. And I look forward to making the planet, this planet, our only one, a more beautiful place with all of you. Thank you for giving me hope, class of 2018.
Yes, all you PITE graduates, you rock. And I want to thank Rachel again for highlighting how when one of us succeeds, we all win. Next, I want to introduce our graduate student speaker, Nick Boucher. And Nick graduated with a Master's of Science. He is graduating with a Master's of Science degree in Natural Resources and Environment, focused on conservation ecology. Nick came to Michigan from Pennsylvania via Maryland, where he got his bachelor's degree. He's finishing his work working with Sigler, our rather huge and well-known cooperative institute for Great Lakes research. And his research is helping to create a 3D model of Lake Michigan's food web, which can be used to predict the effects of climate change and many other things as well. After graduation, Nick will put his skills to work developing science-based natural resource management policies. And I think we can count on him to work towards a sustainable and just world that is our shared goal. So please join me in welcoming our graduate student speaker, Nick Boucher. Hey.
I'd like to start by thanking students, faculty, staff, friends, and family for welcoming me to share my thoughts with you on this special occasion. It's truly an honor to be able to address you all today dressed as some sort of academic wizard. At moments like these, I like to reflect on my life so far and think of events that feel significant. This allows me to assign meaning to the seemingly random events that have happened in my life and make me seem at least somewhat wiser than I really am. So when I was in high school, I worked as an unskilled laborer at a fencing company during the summers. In this context, unskilled means that I don't have formal training in welding, pipe fitting, or any other relevant trade, but regardless, it's still a humbling experience to have unskilled right in your job title. So one day I was working a repair job at a retirement facility. Someone had pulled too far forward when they were parking and knocked over about 20 feet of ornamental fencing. At first glance, this was a simple repair. We just had to grind down the broken posts, then weld new panels into place. About an hour in, we realized that this job wasn't as simple as we had first thought. The hardware that connected the fence panels was broken, and the posts that we were welding onto had been compromised in the crash. What was originally supposed to be a 2-hour job stretched into a 10-hour odyssey. At the end of the day, I was exhausted, overheated, and more than a little frustrated. We were loading our tools onto the truck when I glanced over at the fence we had just repaired. I saw an older gentleman walking out to his car. I watched as he got in, shifted his car into gear, and turned to look over his shoulder to back out. But he didn't back out. Instead, he pulled straight forward and through the fence we had just spent all day repairing. Clearly embarrassed by his gaffe, he reversed into another spot and beat a hasty retreat back inside. To me, this experience really sums up working in the environmental field. Environmental issues are more complex than they seem at first. Sometimes working to solve them can be frustrating. And just when you feel you've made some modicum of progress, someone comes along and undoes it, then washes their hands of the situation. Scott Pruitt, anyone? So why stick with it? When I feel frustrated with the way things are going, I think of 3 takeaways from this story. First, being unskilled doesn't mean unqualified. In my work since starting at SEAS, I have felt and seen time and time again that I'm rarely the smartest or most experienced person in the room. I've had the privilege of collaborating with scientists whose careers span decades. But despite this, I find that when I prepare thoroughly and speak thoughtfully, my input is welcomed rather than dismissed. At the start of your careers, you will likely work with people who have years more knowledge and experience than you do. When you're feeling inadequate, I hope that you'll remember that as University of Michigan and SEAS graduates, you all have the tremendous capacity to learn quickly and distill new knowledge into its most critical elements. Secondly, failure is inevitable, and that's okay. I have failed many, many times. This morning, it took me no fewer than 7 tries to tie my tie. I once called my advisor Mom during our weekly meeting. I will probably fail many more times. But a failure is only truly a failure if you don't learn anything. The day that I called my advisor Mom, I learned that a full 8 hours of sleep can be really beneficial before important meetings. The day at the retirement home, I learned that ornamental fencing is maybe not the best choice for a fence around a parking lot. Implementing solutions in the environmental field is similarly challenging, but each setback can help inform the next attempt. While failure is inevitable, it is rarely an endpoint. And lastly, progress is a collaborative process. Unfortunately, I never got to see the completed fence. The new repair was assigned to a different team. But I know that it was eventually repaired and that I had a hand in the overall process. Working in the field of sustainability is no different. I'm sure many of you have had internships or conducted research where it feels like you haven't accomplished anything of substance. But that's more a reflection of the sheer scale of issues that we face, rather than your work ethic or competency. I'm a strong believer in the philosophy that if your life's work can be accomplished in one lifetime, you aren't aiming high enough. To truly have a lasting impact, you have to be able to collaborate with colleagues and have faith in those who come after you to finish what you started. So in closing, working in the environmental field is a humbling experience. Sometimes it's exhausting or exasperating, but as I'm sure you all know, it's truly a calling. I can't wait to see the things that each of you accomplish, and I look forward to riding all of your coattails to the top. Thank you, and congratulations to the 2018 class of SEAS and PITE.
Thank you, Nick. It's good everyone should take note of the need to get a good night's rest sometime. And also to just never give up and to let your passion drive you no matter what happens, what obstacles you face in the future, because what you're doing is right. Next, I'd like to introduce our commencement speaker. And he's someone I met pretty early on in my first 8 months here. And he's a local legend. He's a national legend in the environmental field. As someone who's not just got the chops to know what he's talking about, but someone who takes the time to really make sure everyone else knows what he knows, and that we do the right thing for our environment and our communities. I'm pleased to introduce Andrew Buchsbaum. He's the Vice President for Conservation Partnerships at the National Wildlife Federation. Andy has overseen conservation partnerships with affiliate organizations, this is his job, in 51 states and territories. And the goal is to accomplish things like continued access to public lands, conserving iconic landscapes, restoring major watersheds, the Gulf of Mexico, Great Lakes, Chesapeake Bay come to mind, protecting lakes, streams, connecting kids with the outdoors. He served as the Regional Executive Director of National Wildlife Federation's Great Lake Office and Interim Executive Director of the National Wildlife Federation's Action Fund, the national political arm of the National Wildlife Federation. He's co-chaired and co-founded the Healing Our Waters Coalition, which has helped win an unprecedented $2.8 billion in federal funding for Great Lakes restoration, and has also helped promulgate new state and federal laws aimed at protecting the Great Lakes water supplies. He led in efforts to write the Great Lakes Water Compact. He's won the Detroit Pre-Press Michigan Green Leader Award, and he's also won the Milliken Distinguished Service Award from the Michigan Environmental Council, both in the last 5 years. He's authored many papers and reports and law review articles, but he's also testifying before state and federal government bodies, including the U.S. Senate and the U.S. House, the International Joint Commission, and the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency when they took science seriously, which of course they will again soon, right? He has taught environmental law courses at the University of Michigan School of Law for 22 years. He's had a host of other really impressive jobs, but we want to get to his speech. But he has earned his undergrad degree from Harvard, someplace in Massachusetts, I hear, and law degrees from Berkeley and Georgetown, and I'm delighted to have Andy here today to deliver our commencement address. He serves as a role model for me, and I hope all our students and faculty as well, and his dedication and inspiration is nothing less than best. Thank you, Andy.
Thank you, Pat. Thank you, Dean Overpeck. So I'm going to depart from my remarks before I even start for a second. Last year, my son, Seth, graduated with a degree from SNRE. And I remember sitting where you are then, and I remember listening to the student speakers, and I remember turning to my wife and saying, boy, I'd hate to be the commencement speaker to follow that. Rachel, Nick, wonderful speeches. I'm really sad about that, I'll tell you. So, thank you, Rachel and Nick. So when I was in college, it was the summer after my junior year, I had an internship in Washington, D.C., working for one of Ralph Nader's groups, Congress Watch. And I was there, believe it or not, with my college roommates who had other internships. It was our first week in Washington, D.C. None of us had ever been there. And so it was Friday evening, work was winding down, and we were really looking forward to doing what undergraduates do in Washington, D.C., which is go to Georgetown and party. And I was on my way out the door, and suddenly a senior staffer came and said, Ralph wants to talk to you. So I went in with another few, back in with another few folks. And now Ralph Nader was legendary even then. He was the founder of the consumer protection movement, the founder of citizen activism. He was the guy who always stood up for the underdog. He beat General Motors. I mean, this was before he ran for president multiple times and tarnished his reputation a bit. So we went in, and Ralph is standing in, next to his desk. He's leaning on the desk in the middle of a cubicle farm. And he starts to walk, and he starts to talk, and he's moving his hands like he likes to do. He tells us about toxic waste sites and about people who are damaged or killed because of toxic waste from sites that industry and that government has forgotten about. He talked about birth defects from bad drugs from pharmaceutical companies. He talked about how teenagers are being maimed or killed by unsafe automobiles. And then he said, how can you see what's wrong with the world and not do something about it? How can you see what's wrong in the world and not do something about it? That was it for me. That was my moment. That set my life on a completely new course. The thing is that I suspect that each of you have already had that moment. You're here, in this school, you've chosen a field that makes a difference. There's probably 1,000 graduation speakers around the country today that are encouraging their audiences, their graduates, to make a difference in the world. I don't have to do that with you. You've already made that decision. You want to make a difference, you're going to make a difference. As you've heard from Rachel and Nick, you are making a difference. So what I want to talk about today is the kind of difference to make. This school is called the School for the Environment and Sustainability. It used to be called, last year, the School for Natural Resources and the Environment. There are some really important differences in that name, but I'm not going to talk about that. Today we're going to talk about the commonalities. Both schools, sustainability, environment, natural resources, are there to do big things. They're there to train people to do big things. These are massive physical structures, massive complex systems. They take massive collective action. To be successful, you have to act at scale. Acting at scale, that's particularly important now and particularly difficult now. You've heard, we have warming temperatures, melting glaciers, drought, fire, rising sea level, and yet there's a denial of the basic climate science. You heard from Rachel talking about the sixth extinction. Monarchs and frogs and amphibians and birds and gorillas, all at risk, all on decline, and yet our politics seem to be so toxic that we seem to be paralyzed. This can be depressing, but it doesn't have to be, because big things are happening now, and you all have the capability of doing more big things. Let's take an example of the Great Lakes, something that you heard Rachel and Nick talking about, something that's been near and dear to my heart for decades. You're here in the heart of the Great Lakes, 20% of the world's surface fresh water, 90% of the country's. If you took the Great Lakes and poured them out, they would fill the Grand Canyon and leave the rest of the country 9 feet underwater, 9 feet. 10,000 miles of shoreline. And yet they're personal. Each one of us, each of the 40 million of us who live in the Great Lakes Basin rely on the Great Lakes for drinking water. That's where we go for family vacations. That's where we recreate. It provides many of us with our jobs. And yet they are fragile. 60 years ago, Lake Erie died, one of the Great Lakes. Massive dead zones grew. Fish were destroyed. It was a combination of toxic chemicals and other pollution. And it came back. We brought it back by passing a federal law called the Clean Water Act, and with massive federal expenditures to clean up sewage. So about 14 years ago, we convened a group of scientists to talk about the health of the Great Lakes. And we thought there had been progress. We thought that they'd been getting better, that some things were better, some things were worse. And this was a conference call. It wasn't a big conference. There was basically a dozen scientists on the phone. Don Scavey and several others from the School of Natural Resources and the Environment at that time were part of that conversation. And I found out how wrong I was. The scientists said, all of them said, the Great Lakes are experiencing ecosystem meltdown. Decades of stress and abuse have damaged their self-healing system, basically their immune system. So they're suffering a chain reaction of degradation. And you can see it because the food web has been damaged, the food chain's damaged. Seeing, again, growing dead zones, massive invasive species. Unless we fix this within 5 years, they said they'll be irrevocably harmed. So I'm sitting there on the phone and in my cubicle, and I stopped I'm looking at the phone and saying, I've been working in this for decades. How can I not know this? The scientists knew, but nobody was listening. So from that moment, we made our business to make sure that people knew. The scientists came together, they published a white paper called Prescription for Protection and Restoration of the Great Lakes, Avoiding the Tipping Point of Irreversible Change. And we published it, and it went, this is before viral, but it went viral. And so it was covered in over 1,000 newspapers, TVs, and radio stations. The Bush administration actually proclaimed the Great Lakes as a national treasure. The US EPA administrator personally visited each one of the Great Lakes states to learn more. There were bills introduced in Congress to restore the Great Lakes, and they specifically mentioned this study. That's great. Great progress. But it's not nearly enough, because knowing about the problem, as we know, is not the same as fixing it. And so we had seen other major ecosystems like Chesapeake Bay and the Gulf of Mexico similarly suffering. Similarly, the science came in, and yet nothing happened. And so we knew we had to do more. We knew we had to do more. We had to come up with a strategy that would get basically $20 billion of funding over a period of maybe 15 or 20 years into the Great Lakes for restoration. And how are we going to do that? The Great Lakes delegation in Congress is big, but it's not that big. How are we going to get members of Congress from outside our region to support that? We've seen that fail over and over again in other major ecosystems. And so we said we have to do more than just science. We have to do policy, and we have to do politics. So I'm going to talk about politics for a minute here. This is not the bad politics that we so often see on display today. It's not the one that's divisive and toxic. These are the politics that unify, that bring people together. So we thought, what is our special asset here in the Great Lakes other than the water itself? It's the Great Lakes states. So, Michigan, Ohio, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin. I said Wisconsin twice, Minnesota. Law, science, not geography, sorry, What do all these states have in common? They're presidential swing states. What that means is that if you want to be elected president, you have to win those states, and those are kind of purplish states. You can't count on them being either Democrat or Republican, which means that you have to pay attention to what the people in those states care about. That means that the national parties have to pay attention to what the people in those states care about. It means that the congressional leaders have to pay attention to what the people in those states care about, regardless of whether you're in the region or outside the region. So we had done polling, and we had found out that when you ask the people in the Great Lakes states if they support protecting the Great Lakes, 96% said yes. 96%. You can't get 96% of the public to agree on what day of the week it is, and 96% supported the Great Lakes. So we knew we had this incredible asset to move forward, and we got to work. We first formed a major coalition called the Healing Our Waters Coalition, brought together 130 different organizations at the state, local, and national level. Then we did message training, message development, and message distribution, and just got the word out that we all needed to restore the Great Lakes. We needed to focus on this, and that the Great Lakes were in trouble. But they could be saved if we act quickly. That was the message. We then did something special that hadn't been done before. We worked with the business community to sponsor a study that showed the economic benefit of restoring the Great Lakes ecologically. That study, published by the Brookings Institution, showed that for every dollar you invest in Great Lakes restoration, you get $2 in economic benefit and up to $4 in economic activity. And so the business community came on board. We built these alliances. We got congressional champions. We continued to do polling. We thought we were ready, but we weren't sure. And so then I accidentally found out, that actually we were ready. I was going to do a conference, to do a speech in Parry Sound, Ontario, which is on Georgian Bay in Ontario. And to get there, you have to cross into Canada over the Ambassador Bridge. And I don't know about you, but every time I go across the Ambassador Bridge, I get a little nervous. Well, you could get nervous because of the bridge itself, but for me, I get nervous because I feel like I've done something wrong, and are they going to stop me? Are they going to arrest me? And so I got to the booth, and on the Canadian side, and there's this guy there. He's a young guy, really clean-cut, square jaw. He's got a Marine haircut, and he's got these reflector sunglasses, and it's a completely gray day. So that heightens my nervousness. And he says, so why are you coming to Canada? So I watch a lot of police shows, and you kind of know that when you get asked a question, if you talk too much, it looks like you're nervous, and if you don't say enough, it kind of looks like you're trying to hide something. So all this is going through my mind as I'm at the toll booth, and he says, and so I say, I'm going to Perry Sound. And he said, what are you doing there? Speaking at a conference. What's the conference about? Great Lakes. So he pauses. He says, Great Lakes, they're in trouble, aren't they? I said, yeah, they are. He takes off his sunglasses and says, so get on with you. We were ready. So this culminated in our campaign to get the presidential candidates to pledge to restore the Great Lakes. We were ready. Everything was lined up. And again, this is a big deal. It's a regional issue. Why would presidential candidates go out on a limb and support a regional issue like that? We found out why. It's because everybody in the Great Lakes cared about it. So Obama and McCain, they not only supported the pledge, they bid against each other to see who could do more for the Great Lakes. Obama's elected 2008. 2009, he comes in office. It's the height of the Great Recession. First thing he does $460 million in new money for Great Lakes restoration. Passes Congress. Every year, yeah, that's worth applause. Every year since then, there has been equivalent investment in the Great Lakes. $2.9 billion over this period. 3,900 restoration projects. We're talking about wetlands restoration, dam removal. We're talking about stopping invasive species from coming up the Chicago River into Lake Michigan. We're talking about millions of cubic yards of toxic sediment removed. There's plenty to do still, but this is amazing, amazing progress. Equally amazing is that what started as an Obama program became a bipartisan congressional program. Huge Republican and Democratic support. And so when several years ago a committee proposed cutting the Great Lakes budget by 80%, before the Healing Our Waters Coalition and the environmental groups could get a sign-on letter together, the chambers of commerce from all over the region flew their members to Washington to talk to their members of Congress and get the funding restored. Not only that, but the chairman of the committee actually apologized for cutting it. This sounds like ancient history, but it's not. Last year, the Trump administration proposed zeroing out the Great Lakes Restoration Initiative. And within weeks, the congressional Republicans and Democrats had completely restored it, and so it's fully funded this year again, and will continue to be. That is making a change at scale. That is using science and policy and strategy and intensive cross-disciplinary partnerships to make a difference. If those things sound familiar, they should, because that's what this school taught you all. That's what this school taught you all. The leadership in this school is not simply the teaching and the learning. It's not simply the faculty that have helped us in these various studies, but this school has provided direct leadership to that campaign. Anna, you want to stand up? Anna Bruner. She's the communications manager for the Healing Our Waters Coalition. Master's degree, 2012, this school. Anna, stay standing. Frank Selassie, come on up. Regional organizing manager for the Great Lakes region, a specialist in Lake Erie, master's degree, this school, 2011. Elizabeth Lillard. She's the agriculture program specialist and one of the co-founders and the manager of the National Women in Conservation Leadership Program out of the Great Lakes office. Master's degree, 2013, this school. There's others that couldn't be here today. Mike Schreiberg, he's actually the co-chair of the Healing Our Waters Coalition, the director of the Great Lakes office. Master's degree 2000, PhD 2002, this school. Celia Haven, she is the field manager for the Healing Our Waters Coalition. Bachelor's, program of the environment, this school, 2010. Jennifer Hill, she's the deputy campaign manager for the Healing Our Waters Coalition. Bachelor's 2005, this school. Now, we can plow all of them. They have made a difference and are making a difference at scale. They're moving the needle, they're moving the country. So, now it's your turn. Now it's your turn. Whether it's science or academics or government, whether it's business or nonprofits, use your skills, your training, your experience to make a difference at scale. It's your turn. How can you see what's wrong in the world and not do something about it? You have the experience, you have the education, you have the passion. Our air, our water, our land, our wildlife, our planet, we need you. So it's your turn. So get on with you.
That was awesome, Andy. Thank you. And thank you for bringing your team, portions of your team. One of the things that's really amazed me in my short time as dean so far is I've been going around the country meeting our alumni. And some of our alumni go back. This school, I want to pay homage to our roots. Our roots are actually in forestry. The first forestry school in the country was here. The first forestry department before that was here. The first forestry class back in the 1800s was here. But that evolved into the natural resources in the environment. And as I go around and now sees the School for Environment and Sustainability, the important thing about the new name is that it's a school for the environment and sustainability. And I suppose if I'd been around trying to help name it, I might have added the word just in there as well. Because the world needs more than just a better environment, a preserved environment, a stewarded environment. It needs more than just sustainability, like so many of our colleagues think. It also needs more justice. And that's what our alumni have been doing for years. And I'm just amazed as I learn more and more about our alumni. You're going to be alumni in a few minutes. It's a network. It's a network that comes back and interfaces with our students. I bet lots of you, especially the master's students, have worked with alumni and have met alumni. And they work together out in the real world, just like Andy pointed out, to combine forces and get things done. And I've just never seen anything like it. Alumni are always coming to me and saying, what can we do to help? So it's really building this network, and it's not a network just in Michigan. Around this country, it's an international network. It's in China, it's in India, it's in Latin America, it's in Africa. Because we're here to make the planet a better place for both people and the natural systems on which people depend. So thank you again, Andy. That was terrific. And I think now, I'm not even looking at the rules of engagement here, which is dangerous for me to do. I think I'm going to turn it over to my associate dean, our associate dean for academic affairs, Dr. Michael Moore. who is going to announce the graduates. Michael?
Good afternoon, everyone. And I want to add my congratulations to members of the class of 2018. I want to just put out a simple message before I start going through everyone's names. And that simple message is to stay in touch. And it's kind of obvious after listening to Andy's wonderful speech and listening to Peck talk about the graduates of the school. But we on the faculty teach you courses, we advise your master's projects, we chair your thesis committees. And it may surprise you, but we actually would like to know what you're doing and how you're doing as you head into the future. So some of you may know exactly where you're moving and who you're going to be working for. Others of you, it's uncertain, right? It's a little bit stressful. You don't know exactly what you're going to be doing. You might be flexible to move places, and you're going to end up someplace. But one thing that is certain is that from here on out, you're a member of the SEAS community. And so I ask you to stay connected with your classmates, to stay connected with us, and stay in touch. So now, with the rules of engagement, we begin with recognition of our doctoral degree recipients. I think we have just one here today. So this is Mariam Arbabzadeh. Let me mention Mariam's dissertation. Her dissertation works on green principles, parametric analysis, and optimization for guiding environmental and economic performance of grid-scale energy storage systems. So congratulations, Mariam. Now we go on to our master's degree recipients. Nicholas Boucher. Peter Alsop. Kirsty Hostetter. Tara Mahon. Marwan Charara. Haley Courier. Dahlia Rockowitz. Tyler Fitch. Edwin Willig. Taiwi Chot Wangbupani Mate. Nicholas Bruscato. Nathan Chesterman. Audrey Paulmeyer. Walker Stinnett. Patrick Bradley. Callie Vanderwild. Natalie Paillet. Kimberly Irby. Melissa Selva. Catherine Grantham. Helen Gutierrez. Priscilla Papias. Anja Zaman. Rika Novayanti. Katie Williamson. Alice Elliott. Brooke McWhirter. Malavika Sahai. Kriya K. Emily Newmer. Taylor Landeryu. Jessica Santos. Caitlin Teppert. Sarah Semigan. Lixie Liu. Anne-Marie McDonald. Erin Barton. Charlotte Weinstein. Hannah Schaefer. Devin Kinney. Julia Entwistle. Caitlin Pritchard. Jessica Robinson. Sophia Paul. Sindhu Bharadwaj. Austin Martin. Garrett Powers. Kisari Tiamkilakul. Andrew Kinzer. Danielle Wilkins. Shiva Raisa Charmakani. Ho Shi. Yilun Zhao. Alyssa Mueller. Alexandra Clayton. Ryan Moya. Bhuvan Nima. Luke Sawitsky. Wiles Case. Nicole Vargas. Christina Carlson. Melissa Morton. Alexis Apostle. Uliana Mogashan. Kazi Palacios Brown. Christine Ricard. Jeffrey Murray. Robert Kranek. Carissa DeYoung. Sean Pavlik. Anita Lynn. Xiao Qian Liu. Zijun Yang. Ili Luau. Chang Ni. Bolivar Aponte Royan. April Richards. Jillian Meyer. Albany Jacobson Eckert. Bradley Weiss. Lino Sanchez. Sean Heineman. Chin Ying Chong. Snehal Chopade. Kai Hui Song. Chenying Liu. Tianyu Ying. Chihong Dai. Huayong Zhao. So now we have graduates earning the Masters of Landscape Architecture. Rachel Leonard. Tiantong Gu. Jinming Liu. Jianyang Li. Yifi Wu. Shui Wang. Chen Zhang. Yak Tsai. Let's have a round of applause for the graduates. So now I would like to introduce Dr. Adam Simon, Professor of Earth and Environmental Science, who's representing Program in the Environment.
So it's my privilege to announce the 2018 graduating class of the Program in the Environment, a joint degree program between the School for Environment and Sustainability and the College of Literature, Science, and the Arts. We'll begin with the Bachelor of Science degree. Rachel Beglin. Nathaniel Erringdale. Ethan Thompson. Aaliyah Spots. Eliza Lutkin. Kayla Mathis. Sarah Deek. Kayla Wanus. Casey Haggerty. Etienne Herrick. Brendan Nee. I know yours. Bradley Spielka. Joshua Ellis. Isabel Engelhart. Catherine Mather. Allison Bierbeck. Shaylin Ostin. David Stimson. Aaron Matheson. Ross Shaw. And now the Bachelor of Arts degrees. Kingsley Kraft. Andrew Hatt. Nathan Hoschel. Sarah D. Kroger. Aaron Brodkey. What do you want me to say? Okay. Reed Osborne. Umia Gehi. Thanks. Francesca DiGiulio. Allison Cohen. Bridget Cook. Keely Ferguson. Julia Berg. Benjamin Senega. Jessa Weber. Brooke Callahan. Shayan Golafshani. Gavin McGregor. Alberto Aguilar Martinez. Matthew Zhao. Madeline Freed. Zachary Fleece. Congratulations, graduates.
All right, congratulations, graduates, you did it. always remember this graduation, my first C's graduation. And so let's stay in touch. Before we go, a little logistics. We're going to take a group picture, the class of 2018. With me. Guests, please remain seated until we give you the all clear. I'm not sure what that means. Shouldn't take more than 10 minutes, and with your cooperation, it'll go faster than that. Got that right? Please join us afterwards, though. This will be more fun for everyone, in Palmer Commons for a reception following this graduation. And if you don't know where it is, just follow everybody else. You'll find it. And graduates, you are now members of the University of Michigan alumni, as I was talking about before. That's well over 500,000 around the world, and you're part of that network. You have our confidence and our best wishes for successful and fulfilling careers. As you go out and make your own impacts, draw on the lessons you've learned and applied here. Think across disciplines, collaborate, always strive to improve and innovate, work for the greatest good, follow your hearts. Congratulations again on your graduation, and go blue.